lean on me when you're not strong. If you hear me at home, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Here in the sanctuary, on Zoom or on YouTube. We have fresh coffee here in the sanctuary, if you can't tell. Jessica's wound up. Welcome to this Sunday program of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. My name is Norm Horofker, and I'm proud to say that I'm the minister of this congregation, established here in Halifax in 1837. I note that tomorrow is the beginning of the Muslim observance of Ramadan. Ramadan celebrates the date in 1610 of the Common Era, when according to Islamic tradition, the Quran was first revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. During the month, Muslims are called upon to renew their spiritual commitment through daily fasting, prayer, and acts of charity. For them, it's a time to purify the soul, refocus attention on God, and practice self-discipline and self-sacrifice. We have a wonderful staff here. Jessica Friesen is our music director. Marie-Claude Leroux is our director of religious exploration. Paul Galbraith is our director and technician this morning. Thank you, Paul. Paige Walkerchuk is our service assistant today. Thank you, Paige. During the service today, the chat function will be open, and I invite you to extend our hospitality by saying hello to anyone that you may not recognize or haven't seen for a while, and feel free to leave a message for us there. If you're not already receiving notifications from the church and you would like to receive them, just send a request to me, minister@uuch.ca. We'll get you on the mailing list. Before I proceed, I have a few announcements. And the order of service for today was sent out over UU Info on Saturday evening, and it contains more detail on the following. We have a very special program launching this Friday. It's a program intended to help us all to better understand the issues of anti-Black racism. If you participated with us with an open mind, I know that you will grow in the process. We will all benefit from this program, I assure you. There are more details. Here with more details is Pam Griffin-Hody, a leader of our anti-Black racism task team.
The slide's gone, which had my convoluted email address on it. We do have a few more spaces left. There is a finite number of people that can participate totally. We are doing it by Zoom, and some people can be in the sanctuary. We have a few spots left in the sanctuary. If you want to come, I would really encourage you to let me know, really ASAP, because at this point it's going to be first come, first serve. So if you've been thinking about it, if you've been thinking, oh, I have to tell Pam I want to go, please do so. You could even do it in the chat function during today's service if you want. I really think it's going to be a very interesting program. All of us have a lot to learn about anti-Black racism, as I think was shown in the events that really came to a head last year when the Black Lives Matter movement, which has been in existence for many years, really caught the world's attention finally on how ingrained these issues are. And I would say that a lot of the time we think that this is an American problem. This is not an American problem. This isn't a Toronto problem. This isn't an Ottawa problem. This is a Halifax problem. And we need to come to terms with it, and we need to learn. And I would really encourage everyone to get in touch with me and participate in this really timely program. The first event in this program is this Friday night at 7 o'clock. and then on Saturday from 10 to 4 with appropriate breaks. I have been asked, which I think was a really good question, if I want to come into the sanctuary, if there's room for me in the sanctuary, do I have to come on Friday night? No, you could Zoom on Friday and come into town on Saturday. There's a couple people that think that they might like to do that, and that's a really, really good idea too. So I don't want to take any more of your time up this morning, but I do hope to hear from some of you soon. Thank you.
And thank you, Pam. Some other announcements very briefly. The announcements are in detail in the order of service that went out over UU Info, including information on the anti-black racism workshop. Other announcements, want you to stay in touch. Every Thursday evening at 7 p.m., we host an online gathering to allow us to break out of our isolation, have a little bit of social time online. The details, again, are in the order of service. We have resumed services in the sanctuary. Just a small number of people are choosing to attend in person presently. If you'd like to plan to attend, we ask that you contact Margaret Galbraith so that we can handle the logistics. Hopefully, as the weather improves and the threat of COVID recedes slightly, we'll be having more people in the sanctuary. This week, there are a number of upcoming team meetings. The worship team meets Tuesday, April 13th at 7 p.m. And the Congregational Board meeting is on Wednesday, April the 14th at 6:30 p.m. Both those meetings are open to anyone who would like to attend. And if you're just curious and would like to watch what goes on, you're welcome just to tune into the Zoom call and watch what happens. There was a plan for a meeting of the brunch team this Saturday. That's the normal schedule, or this Friday, but it's been canceled for this month. Now, over to Paige Walkerchuk for a message from the board.
Good morning. This message from the board. As we continue to weather the pandemic, your generosity has been amazing. You kept our Saturday brunch and food box programs going throughout 2020 by giving unpledged donations, just knowing that the income for the year would probably be down. Already, in the first 3 months of 2021, we have received generous donations for those two programs. We have faith that you will keep that going. For those of you who used to put a contribution on the collection plate and aren't sure how to do that while you can't attend in person, you can always send a check to the church or e-transfer even the small amount to treasurer@uuch.ca. And now I invite you to relax, center yourselves, and Jessica is going to present our prelude.
At this point in our service, we invite a member of our Truth Healing and Reconciliation team or our Climate Crisis team to present an acknowledgement of the land. This morning, I call on Vitska Gradstein. Vitska.
Thank you, Norm. Today, I would like to begin by showing you this famous picture of a wigwam on the shore of Turtle Grove in Dartmouth. I myself used to see this picture, up until 2016 that is, as a historic oddity of Dartmouth. Because these days, this is the location of the Tufts Cove power plant, after all, with its 3 smokestacks. I think Paul has a picture of that too. However, reading Mi'kmaq history, which I'm doing now from the viewpoint of a Mi'kmaq author, has given me a totally different perspective. The wigwam in the picture that was taken in 1870 around there is truly on the edge of what we are still calling civilization. It is pushed to the edge. Picture 3 is again the Mi'kmaq, the wigwam, I hope. The Mi'kmaq living here and everywhere else in the Atlantic provinces had no woods left to hunt in. And at one time they learned how to do the farming and they cleared the lands, just like we Europeans did. But their land was taken away from them too. Except for something new the government or the authorities created, which was reserved lands for the indigenous people. At that time, around that time, Canada was going to be founded. And one of the characters in the book I'm reading tells her granddaughter, and I will paraphrase, the Grand Council governing the Mi'kmaq at the time sent Sayamawo to England to find out if the treaties would be kept after the formation of Canada. Once in England, they found that as long as they stayed the word of the British government, their treaty rights would definitely be respected by the new Canada. And none of us knew what a word was, but that sounded pretty reasonable. But we soon found out, the grandmother said. As words, we were still no citizens of the new Canada, as the white people were. As a word, we were not independent of Canada, as we always thought we were. And what really meant to be a word was that Canada owned us. And that became clear when the Indian Act was brought in 1876. The people living in wigwams on Turtle Grove, truly living on the edge of the new white people settlement, had to subsist for their income. They did basket weaving, they jigged for fish in the harbor, and they did all the handiwork and the dirty work and the heavy work for the white people that lived close by. But in spite of being pushed to the edge and in spite of being desperately poor, they were carving out a good life for themselves in their community on the shore of Turtle Grove. Even when Canada joined the war in Europe in 1914. None of them knew what that war was all about, but it offered good employment, so some of the young guys signed up. It was, of course, that very war, as we all know, that wiped out their community on the shore of Turtle Grove in 1916. And the few people who were not there at the time of the explosion found that they had no place to go back to. Once Halifax and Dartmouth were cleaned up after the war, and once the war was over, all that those surviving Mi'kmaq could do was to make the difficult trek through the woods and the wilderness to the closest bioreserve, and that was Millwood First Nation by Truro. According to a letter from the HRM Chief Administrative Officer That's a CAO instead of a CEO. According to that letter, Canada Lands acquired land at Shannon Park from the Department of National Defense in 2014. That's 7 years ago. Indigenous Services Canada retained a very small strip of that land to make a new reserve. And I have a picture of that, I think. The only thing that is left to formally create that reserve is an endorsement from HRM. The Municipal Council had put that endorsement on their agenda on January 26th, just a few months ago. I haven't heard anything and I haven't kept up with the news and I couldn't find anything what came out of that vote. But I do know that the mills of Canadian bureaucracy grind very slowly. It's now 7 years since the Indigenous Services Canada obtained that 8.5 acres for the new reserve. At the same time, Canada is one of the last nations to still have to pass legislation to implement the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. That initiative for that declaration was taken in the early 1920s, and the government now, in 2021, finally has it before Parliament and Senate as Bill 6015. One doesn't know how long they still need to mull that over and talk about it. That is a mere 100 years later. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Vika. And now we'll go over to Paige for the chalice lighting.
Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. We know we are on our pilgrimage here, but for a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely the meaning of our lives here on this earth.
Today we'll be doing Guide My Feet, Hold My Hand, Stand By Me, Search My Heart. Words are on the screen like always. Please sing along with me. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand, hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me, stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank everyone for their enthusiasm. And now our Director of Religious Exploration, Marie-Claude Leroux, has a story for us based on the writing of Paulo Coelho de Souza. Marie-Claude.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to share not a story, but a manual, adapted from a manual by Paulo Coelho. Now, I don't know about you, but over the years, I've read my share of manuals, and there's plenty I've never opened, like the one in my car. Manuals are generally for instruction and maintenance, which can be very helpful when we need them. The manual that I'm sharing with you has some maintenance tips and instructions to understand our path. Number 1, the path begins with a crossroads. This is where you can stop and think what direction to follow. But here's what's important. Don't spend too much time thinking, or you'll never leave the spot. And once you've taken that first step, keep walking and try to forget about those crossroads. You don't want to keep asking yourself, did I take the right path? It just isn't helpful. Number 2, be well equipped. Carry a small rake, a spade, a penknife. Understand that penknives are no use for dry leaves, and rakes are useless for herbs that are deep-rooted. Know also what tool to use at each moment. Number 3, the path goes forward and backward. There will be times when you have to go back because something was lost, or a message you need to deliver is forgotten in your pocket. A well-tended path enables you to go back without any great problems. Number 4, take care of the path. Don't be distracted by the dry leaves at the edges, or by the way that others are looking after their paths. Use your energy to tend and care for the ground that accepts your steps. Number 5, be patient. Sometimes the same tasks have to be repeated, like tearing up weeds or closing holes that appear after an unexpected rain. If you start to get upset, remember that is part of the journey. Number 6, paths cross. Others will join you on your path, but they may only walk along the same path for a period of time. Bid them well. They have to continue on their own path. Number 7, nature follows its own rules. You have to be prepared for sudden changes in the fall, slippery ice in the winter, the temptations of flowers in spring, thirst and showers in the summer. Make the most of each of these seasons and learn to accept them. And lastly, number 8, love your path. That is what's most important, because what a gift it is to have a path to travel. I hope these instructions will help you maintaining your path, whether it's newly graded or well-worn. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Claude. I'm going to ask Jessica to assist me now as we take this special time to reflect on our joys and sorrows. It is a sacred time in our service. It's a time that we set apart to honor the many joys and the many sorrows that you, the congregation, are living, and to acknowledge the mutual support of our congregation. Today I'm going to ask Jessica, as usual, to light one candle for all those who are here with us or in our thoughts, who are struggling mentally, physically, financially, or emotionally. And Jessica will light a second candle for all the joys that are here in the room, the big joys that only come along infrequently, and the little joys that we are blessed with every day, like the sunshine outside the window today. And Jessica will light a candle once again for those members and friends of our community who are shut in one way or another by this pandemic. This morning I have one special candle to light for Marianne Burke. Marianne attends our Saturday brunch regularly. She's quite a character. Unfortunately, a few days ago, she fell and she broke her ankle. And she's now in the infirmary with a cast and healing. Each week, I invite anyone with a joy or a sorrow to share at this time to relay their thoughts to me by email. This week, I didn't get any other messages, but later when we stop the live streaming on YouTube and before the coffee hour begins, I'll invite anyone else to share a joy or a sorrow if they would like to do so. And now Jessica will present our reflective hymn, number 168, One More Step.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. Sorry about that, we're changing the key. One more word, we will take one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word, one more prayer. We will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song. One more song. We will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
May the joys and sorrows, both those acknowledged here this morning and those held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, weave us together in the interdependent fabric that is our community. And now, Paige has a reading for us.
All right. So I'm going to be reading to you Becoming Ourselves by the Reverend Amanda Pope. I hope I say that right. When I was pregnant with my second child, one of the things I was most curious and anxious about was telling my first child the news of her expected sibling. She was 3 at the time, and I wasn't sure how much she would be able to grasp about the major change her life was about to undergo. I was ready to answer any question she might have, honestly and age appropriately. I started off by being as literal as possible. Guess what? I said. You're going to have a sibling. There's a baby growing in my tummy. That seemed like a good start, though I was ready to switch over to the anatomically correct uterus if needed. But my older child isn't a scientist, it turns out. She's a philosopher. And so she asked the one question I hadn't prepared for. Oh, she said, who is it going to be? I don't know, I said. We're going to have to wait and see. Isn't that always the way? We're still waiting to see who that second child is going to be, although she's been with us for 7 years now and is very much her own person. But she's also changing and growing, becoming someone new all the time, as her older sister is, and as I am, as you are. Sometimes our becomings are dramatic. We realize that the gender we thought we were, or others thought we were, isn't correct at all. Or we discover that the career we had planned, or the marriage we had begun, isn't really who we are, or is no longer right for who we have become. Sometimes, though, our becoming is gradual, a kind of unfolding and changing, shifting over time. Always, it is lifelong, which isn't to say that we aren't already who we are. We are that too. We are already ourselves, the minute we are born and every minute thereafter. However long our lives end up being, even when they are cut painfully and tragically short, we are We are our full selves for every second, every month, every year of those lives. And we are also becoming ourselves, growing and stretching. In the growing time of my life, my soul experienced something like the growing pains I remembered in my legs as a child. I became a minister, a mother, a middle-aged person. It's usually been uncomfortable and almost always inconvenient. The old me seemed fine, the one I was just yesterday. Why bother with all of this shifting? And yet, when I come out the other side, I invariably think, ah, yes, this is the me I was supposed to become. This is who I am. Until next time, who is it going to be?
Thank you, Paige. Thank you for that reading. The author reminds us that we are simultaneously complete and becoming. Becoming at times is a sudden revelation, and at other times, a slow unfolding. As you were reading that page, I was thinking of the opportunity we have with our upcoming anti-Black racism workshop. It's a potential time for becoming, for learning, for growing, and the reference to growing pains is not inappropriate. Sometimes growing and learning is difficult. The time for children of all ages that Marie-Claude presented was adapted from the writing of Paulo Coelho. His life is an amazing story of walking a crooked path while sustaining his essential self. So this morning I've chosen the metaphor of a path to describe this journey of unfolding that we're all living. Visualizing your life as a journey on a path can help us to stay in the moment, mindful of our circumstances. And this morning I want you to come with me as we imagine our lives as journeys along a crooked path. As I reflect on those words, I think how often I've kind of stopped on the path. I'm taking a rest. I'm sitting on a stump. I'm really not going to go down the path today. But yet, we move down the path every day, inexorably. It takes us through this amazing universe from the moment of birth to the moment of death. That metaphor of a path is a rich one. What do you see in your mind's eye when you think of a path? I see a slightly overgrown, narrow, brown earthen trail through a lush green forest. Can you imagine such a trail? I present this trail as a metaphor for our lives. You may know where you want to go, but you can't see very far down that path, and you cannot anticipate the obstacles that lie ahead. A path can be a lonely place. Paths like I am envisioning are not well traveled. You're not in the company of a group, and yet you're not entirely alone, for others have walked this path, blazing a trail that you're now trying to follow. And a path implies for me a slow and steady progression. There are, I know, running paths, but the path that we're on this morning is an overgrown path through a forest. It doesn't invite running. It invites instead careful, measured steps and an awareness of the environment around you and the ever-present potential to lose the path, get lost in the forest. You know there are going to be obstacles ahead, but you also know that the path will take you around them, be they a large boulder or a fallen tree. Others have managed to get past. In the event that something recent has blocked the path, even then, like maybe a stream has cut a gully across the path, you know that you can find the way ahead. The path will resume on the other side. Walking such a path requires that we learn patience, There's nothing to be gained by getting angry when you're alone on a path. Pema Chodron has written, patience is the antidote to anger, a way to love and care for whoever and whatever you meet on the path. Well, there are times that we're traveling that what seems to be a well-worn route. We're also aware that we're making a path as we go. Our path is as unique as we are. In the words of poet Antonio Machado, traveler, your footprints are the path and nothing more. Traveler, there is no path. The path is made by walking. By walking, the path is made. And when you look back, you'll see a road never to be trodden again. Traveler, there is no path, only trails across the sea. For the early years of our lives, we're on a path that's mostly not of our making. We have no choice in the location or the circumstances where our path begins. The author J.D. Strube has written, no one has free will until they're an adult. And by then, the choices that were made for them have already set them on a course that gives limited freedom to the choices to be made. Our freedom to follow a path of our choosing is limited by our upbringing, the socioeconomic conditions thereof, the role models, and in many cases, the physical and mental limits of our bodies and the culture of our times. So even when we set out on a path as adults, we're accompanied by a lot of baggage at the start of the journey. I invite you to think for a moment about your own path. What were the circumstances? When was the time in your own life that you set out on your own path? Maybe circumstances that gave you an advantage, maybe circumstances that you had to work to overcome. And maybe you're still struggling to overcome those initial conditions. I wonder how many of you, when you think back on the path of your own life, can remember a time when you struck out for yourself, when you began to make your own path in life. For me, and I suspect for many of you, that time was in high school. It was a place of learning so many things that weren't on the official curriculum. It was high school where I got exposed to the idea of a career in engineering. I was raised in Northern Ontario, and the idea of becoming a mining engineer was natural enough. And my first summer job that was work-related at all was a career working in a mine, at a mine site. I thought my path was kind of clear. I liked this idea. I had a few close friends, guys that I chummed around with, guys that were on the path of becoming adults at the time, were pretty immature during our high school years, I must say. But I was growing with them. I was slowly becoming an adult with them. One of them, Bill, had a particular way of cutting through to the point of an issue. And I told him one day that I was going to study mining engineering. And without hesitation, he told me I could never be a mining engineer. He said, after all, you don't even have a rock collection. And I thought about that. And I thought about it ever since. And it turns out Bill was right. When I got to Queen's University to study mining engineering, I soon found myself in mineralogy and crystallography classes that had no interest for me, or totally confusing. So I stepped off that path, started down another path, transferring to a much more general mechanical engineering program. And this is how we navigate the path, often changing directions, but never changing our essential selves. As I mentioned, the essential self can bear the stamp of a dysfunctional upbringing that puts us on a path that we would never choose for ourselves. Jessica is going to share an interlude piece with us this morning that speaks to this, and I'll return with a concluding story.
You got a fast car, and I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we can make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Started from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me and myself, I got nothing to prove. You got a fast car, and I got a plan to get us out of here. I've been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money, and I won't have to drive too far. Just cross the border and into the city. You and I can both get jobs and finally see what it means to be living. You see, my old man's got a problem. He lived with the bottle, that's the way it is. He said his body's too old for working. His body's too young to look like his. My mama went off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. I said, somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school and that's what I did. You got a fast car, but is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way. So I remember when we were driving in your car. The speed so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us. Your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car, and we go cruising to entertain ourselves. You still ain't got a job, and I work in the market as a checkout girl. And I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter, buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs. I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us. Your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling that I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car, and I got a job that pays all our bills. You stay out drinking late at the bar. You see more than your earns and your kids. I'd always hope for better. Thought maybe together you and me would find it. I got no plans, I ain't going nowhere. So take your fast car and keep on driving. So remember when we were driving in your car. The speed so fast I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. I had a feeling that I is it fast enough so you can fly away? You gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way.
Thank you, Jessica. A very touching story about a path that's, we all probably know someone that's been on that path. It's sad. I want to conclude with another story, a version of a story that you may well have heard, but it's a story that bears repeating. This version was related by Rabbi Sylvia Rothschild, a British Reform rabbi, and she wrote, Martin Buber tells a story of the great Hasidic Rabbi Zusia. On his deathbed, he began to cry uncontrollably, and his students and disciples tried hard to comfort him. They asked him, Rabbi, why do you weep? You're almost as wise as Moses. You're almost as hospitable as Abraham, and surely heaven will judge you favorably. Zusia answered them, it's true. When I get to heaven, I won't worry so much if God asks me, Zusia, why were you not more like Abraham? Or Zusia, why were you not more like Moses? I know I'd be able to answer these questions. After all, I wasn't given the righteousness of Abraham or the faith of Moses, but I tried to be both hospitable and thoughtful. But what will I say when God asks me, Zusia, why were you not more like Zusia? Rabbi Rothschild goes on to say, as a teenager, I had a poster of a Peanuts cartoon, which had Linus complaining, there is no heavier burden than a great potential. Like all these cartoons, there was great wisdom in those funny sideways comments. But the reality is each of us has great potential, and we need to think about the answer we might give to the question Rabbi Zusia feared so much. Every human being has a unique capacity to add to the world. Each of us can bring love and goodness and creativity, thoughtfulness and human warmth to our path. We each have the potential to be fully present in the world, fully open to the possibilities of relationships with the other. We make our choices, we make our path every day. It's a good time for us to preempt the question of Zusia. As we continue to make our path, how shall we be more fully the best, beautiful, and unique selves that we are, that we can be? What's going to guide you on your path? The closing hymn this morning, led by Jessica, offers some good advice in this regard. It reminds us of the words of Paulo Coelho, love the path that you're on. May it be so. Amen.
We're going to sing Love Will Guide Us, number 131. Words are on the screen. Love will guide us, peace astride us, hope inside us, we'll lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Okay, I want to see you excited here. Let's get some smiles on their face. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can hear from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Okay, everyone, love will guide us. Norm, clap for me. There. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us, we'll lead the way
And now Paige has our closing words. And when Paige has read them, I will extinguish the chalice here in the sanctuary.
Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace.
Thank you all who attended the service today here in the sanctuary or by Zoom or on YouTube. I'll say goodbye now to those who joined us by YouTube and as we end our live streaming. Thank you again. For those who joined by Zoom, in a few minutes, we'll return to sharing joys and sorrows, followed by our virtual coffee hour. Thank you again and go in peace.